Hello, I'm Deanna Cooney, your host. Welcome to this week's episode of WTV's local news and current affairs program, Undercurrent. On this week's episode, we're taking you to a community garden, a launch party and a health forum. But first, we'll be attending a rally held in Murray Street Mall by the Friends of Venezuela, calling for a peaceful end to the current crisis, which is resulting in economic sanctions and starvation for its people.
It's a beautiful day here in Australia today. Unfortunately, it's not the same for people of Venezuela and Venezuelans in diaspora. There is hyperinflation, there is uncertainty, and there is a self-declared president in Venezuela at this moment. The West are in support of the self-declared president, while Russia, China, and Turkey are in support of the incumbent president, Nicolas Maduro. Juan Guaido declared himself as president, and now there's uncertainty for who is going to run Venezuela.
This is part of the international campaign to prevent a military intervention in a sovereign country. We don't want war, we want peace.
Venezuela is well known for its oil production. As of 2000, Venezuela exported 3.5 million barrels of oil each day. Unfortunately, at this moment, they are struggling to export 1 million barrels of oil.
Venezuela is a very rich country, got the richest, got the biggest oil reserves in the world. Unfortunately, it's dependent from oil production and had to buy all the food from the imports. The U.S. have really effectively damaged the situation for the people of Venezuela. The government hasn't been able to purchase food and medicine. The U.S. has created a crisis. They're sponsoring a coup d'etat in Venezuela.
The Venezuelans are hardworking people. Unfortunately, what they are going through right now is despicable. There is no food, no medication, and no social welfare. What's next for the people of Venezuela? We've got a citizen of Venezuela living here in Perth, Western Australia. So who do you think is the legitimate president of Venezuela right now?
Right now, Juan Guaido.
And why are you in support of Juan Guaido?
Because according to our constitution, he's president. Nicolas Maduro violated the constitution in July last year when he called for elections, even though that he didn't call for a referendum.
And what do you think is the solution to the crisis in Venezuela right now?
There is a party trying to remain in power, which is Nicolas Maduro. They have to leave power, let the humanitarian help get into the country, and then let us be a free democracy.
At this juncture, United States of America and Europe are in support of the self-declared president in person of Juan Guaido. But China, Russia and Turkey are in support of Nicolas Maduro. What's your view about this?
Well, it's obvious that China and Russia have their interests because of the oil in the country.
Are you in support of military intervention in Venezuela?
If it is the last resource, yes, because we need to get back our democracy.
Are you sure about this decision? Because we've had military interventions in Libya, military interventions in Syria, but it has not been well and good for the people.
And right now there's people dying in my country and starving to death. So it's at the end of the day, if this needs to happen in order to stop all the murders, yeah, go ahead.
I'm here because I'm really concerned about what's happening in Venezuela. The US pick for president of Venezuela. To me, the people who should decide who the government of Venezuela is the Venezuelan people, not the US, not Australia, not the United Kingdom. This crisis in Venezuela is real. It is being driven in part by the sanctions, the economic war that the US has been waging on Venezuela for quite a long time. And now they set up a pretense that they want to go in with humanitarian aid. And the humanitarian aid is a pittance.
Back in May last year, I witnessed the democratic process of electing President Nicolas Maduro. The opposition in Venezuela called to boycott the election. However, 9 million people voted in the election and 6 million voted for Nicolas Maduro. This campaign in Venezuela started years ago when the United States have imposed all this economic war on Venezuela. So this is bad for democracy, It's bad for the people of Venezuela. It's bad for the people of the world.
I'm here to oppose American intervention. Trump's electoral campaign insults people of Latin America, and yet now we're supposed to believe that he and his government wants to help the people of Venezuela by imposing blockade, by choosing a president, by sending troops to the border. Western countries have just accepted it. We don't accept it.
For the first time, the U.S. has imposed economic sanctions against Venezuela. The Trump administration banned trades of Venezuela's debt, prohibiting President Nicolás Maduro's government and state-run oil company from selling new bonds to Americans or U.S. financial institutions. The move comes after months of unrest in the South American country, which has left more than 130 people dead. Barring Venezuela's debt purchases could cripple the Venezuelan government's ability to pay off interest on its growing national debt.
The Venezuelans living here in Perth, Western Australia, they don't want any military intervention in their country. All they want is peace. Russia, China and Turkey are in support of Nicolás Maduro. We don't know what's going to happen next. We're just going to cross our finger and hope for better. Thank you. And I am Tony ETC reporting for Undercurrent.
Last Sunday, John McBain hosted the event Celebrate the Harvest, which took a look at the outcomes from 2018's community gardens and discussed the creation of a more sustainable future.
John McBain reporting for Undercurrent West TV at Perth City Farm. The event is Celebrate the Harvest, the outcomes of last year's 2018 WA Community Garden Gathering.
I'd just like to say Kaya Wanju Wanju, and to remind everybody that we are on Wajak land, which is a really important part of our awareness.
I had the honour of founding Perth City Farm, and I guess the whole community garden city farm movement from 1994 with a whole lot of youngsters. We really struggled to be here in the first place. It took us 10 years to have a commitment to be here. So it's amazing that this whole movement is just so powerful and taking off.
Last year, because what that did was bring to me the awareness that all the work that we'd been doing here at Perth City Farm, it actually had an impact because there were people out there growing gardens and making connections. The whole point of it was about education and getting people to go out there and actually make the difference in their own backyard and in their own community.
Okay. Community garden people are always having fun. Out there in the gardens, in the rain and the sun.
I guess I was lucky to have been brought up in the desert when I was growing up. And I was lucky to listen to the clans of my family. We were lucky that we could learn from those clans of people that was taking us through the bush. And what I see today is that we don't learn enough about plants and the origin of plants and foods, you know, of how where the food comes from, what plants they are. And they sat in the gimlet forests and they connected and they taught their foods to people, and everybody learned cultures through food.
2 weeks ago, the Premier, Mark McGowan, he launched a new waste strategy. So now the full grunt of our government, the West Australian government, is behind this new strategy. The previous strategy only talked about diversion from landfill. But this new strategy is way more detailed, and we're actually now looking at avoidance of waste in the first place. And the target is 20% less waste generated by 2030. So that's about 2% a year, so that's an easy target we can meet, no problem at all. The next objective is actually recover more. Currently we're recovering about 51% of our waste we generate. That should be more. So we set ourselves a target for Western Australia, 75% by 2030. And the third one is actually, and this is what this is all about as well, is protecting the environment. We are having way too much impact on the environment. So that's great, we got targets now. It's adopted throughout the whole, through all the departments by all ministers. So it's a government, a cabinet-supported document, which is great, and it sets the tone.
We've got so much to learn about how we feel comfortable in the environment, how we nurture the environment, and how we look after it for future generations. And community gardens are essential in performing that role.
Kind of knitting people together, creating community, allowing community to happen.
It was really nice to have an event where we could all come together and share knowledge and stories, and to hopefully to make it easier for more people to start up more community gardens in WA.
One of the things that community gardens do, it creates a space where people can learn to be together again in ways that are supportive but also affect change.
And plants is very important, you know, because it's like learning together with food, you know, and it's a wonderful thing to have pair sharing today.
How do we make sure that people in Perth don't just have food, but have more nutritious food and better food, and food that has been produced in a way that's more sustainable for the environment?
This is part of a worldwide movement, I think. People are increasingly realising that community gardens offer a lot in terms of reconnecting community in a very fragmented and often pressured time. So people are really looking for those opportunities to reconnect and to live more sustainable lives.
People are really interested in what's going on and do care about the environment, and young children in particular are very aware of what they need to do and how to interact and the sorts of things that they want our world to be.
I just would like to celebrate the fact that there are so many community gardens out there.
We believe, and I hope all of you do too, that our movement and the movements you people all represent here today are going to make the world a far better place.
Up next, Tibor heads to Mount Lawley for the launch party of the Perth Pin-Up Society magazine, a publication celebrating old-fashioned glamour, burlesque and self-expression.
Here we are in the Pin-Up Society magazine launch party in Mount Lawley. So what's your part in this magazine launch?
Well, I'm one of the creative directors behind the magazine. So the four of us got together because we wanted to shape something for pin-ups, and part of the party was me showing all of my entertainment skills. So I did 3 songs and 1 song and dance, where I do burlesque and singing combined for something new. Pin-up for me is like all about self-expression, so being whatever radiant variety of yourself you feel like being, and I really like old things as well, so retro styles like my hairdo and my nails.
So that's the first issue, just came out. How many more and how often?
Well, the first one was like a test to see how it went, and it's been very successful.
What is the next step? There you go.
Well, the next step is probably writing some more articles. I know I myself want to really contribute a lot more about what's in my mind, not just photos, but like some back culture, and I like writing recipes for it as well. I've got some recipes in this one, so not just photos, but like lifestyle.
I am a vintage model by trade. I am sort of worming my way into the burlesque world, but for the most part, I model with my very long legs.
Are you in the magazine, in the news?
I am in the magazine. I'm on the back, and I've got a couple of articles as well, talking about things like self-confidence.
So how do you feel being on the front page or the back page of the magazine?
I love it. I have been a cover model before, but to actually create a magazine is a whole different ball game. It's so much easier to submit an image and be published on the front cover. It's a whole other thing to create a magazine from scratch. So it's been an interesting experience, that's for sure.
So tell us something about your career, what you done, and when you started singing, and where you going?
Oh, okay, so I've been singing since I was a little girl, but since I met Nicole, it got me out of my comfort zone, and I'm singing now more for the pin-up community. So essentially it's, I guess, a talent that I've been hiding, that I don't tell a lot of people. Singing makes me happy.
The planning went really well. We came down with a lot of ideas and concepts, and then eventually I just took the creative realm and started to place articles together. I really wanted as many plus-size women and alternative pin-ups in there, just to sort of show variety in what we can do. And there's not one definition of pin-up. It's an entire collective of tattoos and crazy hair colours and just self-empowerment, self-love, and that's really what I wanted the magazine to be.
But I am here to introduce the next act because it's only fair if the ladies of our magazine perform for you as much as our beautiful students have.
So a little bit about myself. I am Miss Monmon. I have been a pin-up for, feels like forever. Oh my gosh.
And you are featuring in the magazine yourself?
Yes, I had a photographer send in my images. Unfortunately, I was like, oh no, I have to put them in now. But I'm on the back page, so I thought that was okay. But I love what I'm doing, and I had some amazing brands send me beautiful clothes, so I'm hoping it's more of an advert for them rather than an advert for me.
So how do you see the future of the magazine?
Oh, we're going to go big. We're going to be on billboards and Times Square. No, that's a dream though, isn't it? No, I really just want this magazine to be somebody coming home, be like, I just want to feel empowered and know that I have value, and they open up the magazine and that's what I want to see. I really just want to have a lot of self-love and self-encouragement from everyone who reads it.
Oh yeah, I've been very busy with burlesque lately. We've just come off Fringe Festival. We've had so many glamorous shows. It's been a really good time.
And what is the Pin-Up magazine? How do you come about this?
So myself with Miss Veronica Lilly, Miss Mon Mon and Miss Lillian Rose got together and thought we'd love to create a vintage style magazine. We wanted to feature lifestyle articles, tutorials and everything else in between. So we started working probably about a year ago and we've finally made it happen, which is just so exciting.
Today is launch, so here we are. We got the magazine forever, printed and electronic.
Yeah, so it's available both online and in print, and you can get it from MagCloud, which is really fabulous, and they ship worldwide.
And you are also available online and on stage.
Oh yeah, I do live performances and everything else in between.
So what do you planning for this year? I heard you're going to the United States.
Yeah, so in April I'm going to be heading to America. I'll be competing in the Viva Las Vegas Rockabilly Weekend Pinup Contest. Biggest pinup contest in the whole world. Over 200 people apply worldwide, and I'm the only Australian to make it in this year, which is so exciting.
What sort of number you will perform there?
So it'll be a pinup inspired performance, so less burlesque, more pinup, so more about posing, and they also interview us on stage as well.
So that's good, now you're practicing.
Oh yeah, definitely. This is good practice, good practice.
Good luck. That's what can I say for you. Good luck for your magazine and also for your travel.
Thank you so much, Tibor. We also have our show on in a couple of weeks with WTV at your gala, which is really exciting.
On the 10th of March.
Coming up very quickly, so be sure to book your tickets for that.
Thank you.
We are having a short break, so don't go too far. Grab a cuppa and then head straight back because we've got more Perth stories for you here on Undercurrent.